What's going on, everybody? Hope everyone is doing well. My name is Jason, and in today's video, we're going to be previewing and predicting Week 21 of the 2023 CFL season. The last week of the regular season is upon us, ladies and gentlemen, and so let's get into it. So this week's preview is probably going to be a little bit of a shorter one, given that there's really not too much to say about these games this week because they don't really have much importance when it comes to the standings. In fact, they have literally no significance when it comes to changing the standings. They cannot change based off of what happens this week. So basically some glorified preseason games the last week of the regular season here in the CFL. But let's get started. Friday night at 9 p.m. Eastern, we have the 13-4 Winnipeg Blue Bombers visiting the 6-11 Calgary Stampeders in a game that would have had a lot of importance had Saskatchewan beaten Toronto last week, but unfortunately for the CFL in general, Toronto won that game and Saskatchewan was eliminated, and Calgary clinched that last playoff spot in the West Division. Now, in terms of the players I'm watching for in this one, and that's another point about this week, is that we don't know exactly who's going to be playing in these games. I know who's going to be playing in this first matchup because they've already released the depth chart for it, but for these matchups on Saturday, they have yet to announce who's even playing in those games for, Hamilton, Montreal, Toronto, and Ottawa, so that's something to keep in mind. I might list a player here that may not even play. With that in mind, the players that I'm watching for in this Winnipeg-Calgary game: Drew Brown, quarterback for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, going to be starting in place of Zach Collaros, who is, of course, resting for this week. And I think Drew Brown showed a lot of promise over his limited action in the CFL over the last couple of years. So, if he shows a lot of promise this week as well, he's had a couple of other starts this season. If he plays well this week, then that potentially auditions him for a starting quarterback job come free agency, or at least to be in conversation for competing for a starting job next year with another team. So keeping an eye on Drew Brown in this one. And then for Calgary, it's wide receiver Cole Tucker, who the team selected with their first-round pick in this year's CFL draft. And he really hasn't shown a whole lot, but he's in the starting lineup for this one. I've already seen the depth chart for this game, of course. So I think that if Cole Tucker could have a big game, that would really help his expectations going into next year. So I'm really excited to see what he provides for the Stampeders in this one. Now, in terms of who is going to win this game, very tough week to predict these games, like I said, with a lot of backups playing. I'm going to take Calgary to win this game 21-17. Like I said, Winnipeg's not going to be trying to win. They're going to be bringing a skeleton crew to Calgary. Calgary's resting a bunch of guys as well, but I think they're going to want to enter the playoffs on a 3-game winning streak and get to 7 wins. So I'm going to take Calgary to win this game. Now moving over to Saturday at 4 p.m. Eastern, we have the 8-9 Hamilton Tigercats visiting the 10-7 Montreal Alouettes. And another game that potentially could have had more meaning, but unfortunately for the case of the CFL, it does not have any meaning going into this week. The players that I'm watching for in this game: running back Sean Thomas Erlington for the Hamilton Tigercats. Very quiet season for him with James Butler coming aboard in the Tigercats backfield, but I still think Thomas Erlington is a useful player for the Tigercats, and he's a good change of pace back. So I think he's going to get a lot of work in this one if he indeed plays for the Tigercats in this game. And then for Montreal, it's Lual Ugawak, a defensive end who they drafted in the first round this year out of Texas Christian University. And I think he's starting to really flash the last several weeks here. I would expect him to get the start in this game if he does play. So I'm really excited to see what happens with him the rest of his CFL career as we move into next year. He could be a breakout candidate as one of the better Canadians in the league next season. Now, in terms of my pick for this game this week, again, another really tough game to pick, but ultimately, I'm going to go with the Alouettes to win 27-19. I think that, that's just the trend of their season. They beat everybody that's not BC, Winnipeg, and Toronto, and I'm going to stick to that and have them go 11-0 against those teams this season. And now closing out Week 21 with the final game of the week. Saturday at 7 p.m. Eastern, we have the 15-2 Toronto Argonauts visiting the 4-13 Ottawa Redblacks. And this is the game that I actually have the most interest in watching, mostly because of the historical context that's on the line here. If Toronto wins, they'll tie the Edmonton Eskimos for the best record in a regular season in CFL history with a 16-2 record. So something to watch in this game at the very least. And for Ottawa, I mean, it's the last game of the regular season. They're not going to be going to the playoffs for the 4th consecutive season, so I'm trying to build for next year for them. Now, in terms of the players I'm watching for in this one, I'm going with the quarterbacks. Cameron Dukes for the Toronto Argonauts going to be getting the start. I'm sure we're going to see Brian Scott, the 3rd-string guy, as well, but I think Cameron Dukes is going to play the majority of the game, and I think that he's shown a lot of promise in the little action that he's gotten this season behind Chad Kelly. So excited to see what he can do with a full game right from the start in this one. And then for Ottawa, it's Dustin Crum, who's had a bit of an up and down season. Obviously had the hot start, beating Winnipeg, beating Calgary, but I think that he's really regressed since then. He's had a couple of good moments along the way, but for the most part, the latter half of the season has not been great for him. So looking to have a big performance and build going into next year, because I think that, you know, if he can win this game, he's probably going to be this team's day 1 starting quarterback next season. We'll have to see how the offseason shakes out, but I think that he is their best option in-house to be the quarterback for the team next year. Now, in terms of my pick for this game, again, very tough game to pick. You don't know who exactly is going to be playing for the Argos in this one, but it really feels like regardless of who's out there for the Argos, whether that be the 1st stringers or the 2nd stringers, they're really trying all out to win each week, regardless of the meaning of the game. So I'm going to take Toronto to win and get that 16-2 regular season record with a 28-24 victory on the road in Ottawa. But with that said, that is just your short Week 21 CFL preview. Be sure to let me know your picks down below. And with that said, I'll see you guys next time. Peace.